Premier League clubs have signed players from the Dutch 𝗘𝗫𝗍𝗧𝗏 and Germany's Bundesliga for decades now, and for the most part, they've been hit or miss. For every Ruud van Nistelrooy or 𝗕𝗏𝗏𝗏, there's an 𝗈𝗊𝗍𝗧𝗏𝗏 or Vincent Janssen. Equally, not every signing from Deutschland is as successful as 𝗦𝗶𝗴𝗍𝗏, for example. Sometimes they're Marco Marins. Can't be helped. But that shouldn't put clubs off, and it hasn't. 𝗕𝗫𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏 joined Liverpool from Eintracht Frankfurt in the summer, Kai Havertz signed for Arsenal from Bayer Leverkusen, and they've both done pretty well for themselves in England. One of the picks of the bunch, Van der Vaart, was a Dutchman who signed for Spurs from a team in Germany. Double whammy right there. Over here at FourFourTwo HQ, we think we found two players in Germany and the Netherlands who would immediately improve Tottenham next season. And the good news is, one of them already belongs to the club. Welcome back to the Boys A Bit Special with me, 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏, where I'm spotlighting the best and brightest teenagers in world football.
Still Smit, brilliant!
Spurs' season hasn't gone according to plan. You don't need to be an expert to work that one out. There's been something of a mutiny in the stands and the team just don't look like hot stuff on the pitch either. Lads, it's Tottenham is having a revival in 2026. Spurs' XG is among the lowest in the Premier League this season, and that doesn't look like changing anytime soon because they're struggling to create chances. And if you can't create, you aren't going to score. Adding Conor Gallagher raises the ceiling of Spurs midfield but does little for Tottenham's ball progression. Gallagher, João Palhinha, Archie Gray, Yves Bissouma, Lucas Bergwall, Pape Sarr and the injured Rodrigo Bentancur, and not one progressive passer between them. Johan Lange, what have you been playing at? So that's where FourFourTwo, doubling as transfer window consultants, come in. Generous, I know, doing all this for free. Dutch youngster Kees Smit has been linked with just about every top European club this season, and there's very good reason for that. He's f***ing class, that's why. Smit is a central midfielder who does it all when he's on the ball. Currently playing at 𝗈𝗊𝗍𝗏𝗏 Alkmaar in the Netherlands, he won't be there for long. Chelsea, Newcastle, Real Madrid and Spurs have all been credited with an interest. So you can excuse 𝗈𝗍 executives for diving into a pit of gold coins like Scrooge McDuck or having dollar signs rolling around in their eye sockets like a slot machine that's hit the jackpot, because they're going to make a killing. And let me be clear, this is not financial advice, but you might want to buy your Smit stocks now. I don't expect too many of you to have tuned into Crystal Palace versus 𝗈𝗍 in the Conference League earlier this season. Why would you, if not a supporter of either club? Well, FourFourTwo did. Palace had clearly done their homework on Smit, trying to stop him at source by getting touch tight where possible, which was pretty much whenever he received the ball with his back to goal. Once he's got a feel for possession and is looking forward, that's when you as an opposing team are in trouble. Nevertheless, Smit still managed to make 5 progressive passes, 3 passes into the penalty area, 3 into the final third, and register 𝗈𝗍's only assist on the night. Not amazing numbers, but this was his first test against elite Premier League opposition, and he passed with flying colours. This shouldn't be a surprise though, because he's been doing it for years. In 2022-23, Smit was arguably the best player in the UEFA Youth League, which is a cloned version of the Champions League for under-19 teams, plus some domestic title winners who go through a different path. En route to the final, where 𝗈𝗍 comprehensively beat Hajduk Split 5-0, more on that later, Smit and 𝗈𝗍 had seen off Eintracht Frankfurt by the same scoreline, defeated Real Madrid 4-0 and Barcelona 3-0. During that Barcelona game, Smit lobbed the keeper from the halfway line. I'd sum that up by saying the Dutch equivalent for cojones, but I'm worried about sounding like Steve McLaren, so just look it up for yourselves. Smit is all action and there's little hesitation to his game. He's got a certain tiki-taka about him, so naturally comparisons have been drawn to Pedri. Others prefer to describe him as the Dutch Kevin De Bruyne though. He's got great feet and all-round technical ability. He's flighty and robust, and he operates well in tight spaces, rarely overcomplicating it. He's great at taking players on as well as threading passes through for wingers, cutting inside or centre forwards, which, as luck would have it, currently includes former Spurs man Troy Parrott at 𝗈𝗍. Maybe don't ask him what he thinks of Tottenham. Okay, so why is this explicitly good for Spurs? Beyond the obvious, he creates chances and transports the ball well. Well, that's because progressive players like Smit are usually good at one or the other, passing or carrying. Because Smit does both, it makes him especially useful in a transitional side, as well as in a team that sees more of the ball. When the opportunity arises to carry into space, he'll take it. But faced with a low block and teams setting up defensively, he'll bide his time and then pick a killer pass. You see where the De Bruyne comparisons come from now? Rarely is there a sure thing in football, because players can promise so much and see their progression derailed by injury, intra-club politics, ill discipline, or any number of external factors. But if we were to hedge our bets, we'd say Smit is a future Premier League star. And so, if Spurs are serious about their interest, they'll need to move fast and make their argument a watertight one as to why he should pick North London. Do you want more from FourFourTwo? Then why not join our community with a completely free membership? There's loads of benefits, including extra content, quizzes, Q&As, fan discussions, plus plenty more. All you have to do is click the link in the description and sign up with your email. Speaking of watertight, how about that Spurs defence? Despite their anemic attacking output this season, Tottenham's defence has largely been one of the Premier League's best, at least in terms of the number of chances they've been conceding. You could probably attribute much of that to 𝗦𝗶𝗴𝗍, because when he isn't going on mazy 70-yard dribbles and turning into 𝗕𝗫𝗠𝗠𝗠𝗏 in the opposition penalty area, he's actually a pretty competent defender too. But that comes at a price, and if Spurs fail to make the Champions League, which looks increasingly likely, then you have to say there's a chance, at least, that Van de Ven could be off in the summer. Just about every top club, it feels, is after a new centre-half, not least Liverpool, who could be in need of two. So, hypothetically speaking, what should you do when your aerially dominant, quick over-the-ground centre-back is signed by someone else? Well, recall the gargantuan Balkan teenager you signed a few years ago who dominates in both penalty areas. That should do it.
Vuskovic!
The Croatian teenager is on his third loan spell since agreeing to sign for Spurs, and he's doing stupidly good things, especially in the air. Vuskovic is averaging an aerial success rate above 80% in the duels he contests, which is quite a few. And if that doesn't mean much to you, consider this. Virgil van Dijk averages around 75% success, and fellow elite central defenders are having a great season if their average tips above 70. Vuskovic skipped adolescence altogether, presumably. He went from child to adult and made his senior debut for 𝗕𝗫𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏 at 15, then became the club's youngest goalscorer 5 days after his 16th birthday. By this point, he was already well over 6 feet tall. Must be nice. Not long after, Spurs decided they must have him and dropped £11 million on the 16-year-old, who probably received a chunk of change as a signing-on fee. That must be nice too. He's 6'4", if you were wondering, and comes from a family of footballers. Just don't ask him about why his elder brother Mario is currently banned from playing alongside him at Hamburg this season. Something failed a drugs test. Anyway, he was sent on loan to Poland, graduating from the 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏 School of Hard Knocks, then joined Belgian club 𝗬𝗚𝗏 on another loan last season. He finished the campaign as 𝗬𝗚𝗏's second top scorer with 7 goals, which is not bad going for a centre-back. You can guess how the majority of those were scored, can't you? This year, besides dominating Bundesliga forwards in the air, he's coming into his own in a top European league. So much so that talk around his inevitable Spurs return is beginning to pick up the pace ahead of next season. All roads lead to Seven Sisters. Do you remember Top Gear's star in a reasonably priced car leaderboard? No? YouTube audience probably not the best place for that reference. Well, Vuskovic is pretty high on 442's do not mess with leaderboard. He's well hard. That's why if Spurs do sign Kees, the baby-faced Dutchman probably has some making up to do. Because remember that UEFA Youth League final, which 𝗕𝗫𝗓𝗍 won 5-0? That was against 𝗕𝗫𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. And in that 𝗕𝗫𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 was Luka Vuskovic. Yikes. So to recap, elite box defender, check. Penalty area homing missile, check. Coming to a league near you? Also check. Don't make us look like mug Spurs. Make it happen. And remember, subscribe to 442 for more Boys A Bit Special, unique stories, Wonderkids, and so much more. Until next time, bye for now.